One of the greatest mysteries of our time is about our cousins who were more powerful than us by 2. They had larger brains and even lived in Anatolian lands. They evolved to survive even in the most ruthless conditions. They were the Neanderthals. When our ancestors encountered them, what did they feel? And most importantly, why did they disappear with question marks? Perhaps they are still living among us and we do not even know it. But first, we need to get to know them. We can refer to Neanderthals as our cousins. They were a human species that lived in Europe and Asia for thousands of years, alongside modern humans, which is us. They were the most similar to us among all living creatures. Their physique was much harder, and their bodies were so muscular that today's bodybuilding champions would look quite ordinary among the Neanderthals. The last evidence we have of them dates back to 30,000 years ago. In short, the last thing that scientists can say about Neanderthal lineage is that it ended 30,000 years ago. But why did they disappear? Until recently, it was thought that Neanderthals were stupid cavemen. This incorrect perception created by Hollywood caused the public to think the same way. However, we now know that this was not the case, especially from the remains found in the Shanidar cave in northern Iraq, where it was revealed that Neanderthals buried their dead and even decorated their graves with flowers. Neanderthals were skilled at making tools and would use the adhesive they invented to attach spearheads. They also domesticated fire. Their physical appearance was significantly different from ours, and they were much stronger, which was likely due to their evolution as the first human species in Europe. This was around 400 to 500,000 years ago, during a period of a great ice age in Europe. Surviving in such harsh conditions was not easy, so their physical structures evolved accordingly. Comparing the skull of a Neanderthal to that of a Homo sapiens, we can see that their brain was actually larger than ours. However, this does not necessarily mean they were more intelligent, as the important factor is which specific parts of the brain are larger. When our ancestors first encountered Neanderthals after migrating to Europe, they likely felt surprised and scared. Nevertheless, their interactions were mostly peaceful, and they did not create enemies of one another. Instead, both human species had the common goal of survival and continued to live their lives in peace. In fact, they even interbred, and modern humans can see a range of 2 to 4% of Neanderthal DNA in their own genetic makeup, especially those of European and Central Asian descent. This is due to frequent interbreeding between Neanderthals and modern humans. Africans, on the other hand, do not have Neanderthal DNA because Neanderthals never migrated to Africa. We know that Neanderthals had a primitive sense of art, as evidenced by handprints deliberately left by them in some caves in Europe, which are still preserved today. Some musical instruments, such as flutes made of stone and bone, found along with their remains, show that they were the oldest musicians of humanity. It's really interesting that the traces of our extinct cousins, who disappeared 30,000 years ago, are still here. Maybe they made these traces so that one day it would be known that they lived here. But did they develop a language among themselves? We unfortunately do not know this. Yes, they definitely communicated with each other because they lived in groups, hunted in groups, and had a tradition and culture passed down from ancestors to children. However, we have no idea if they had a spoken language or not. Now let's come to the reason why their species went extinct 30,000 years ago. The first reason is that they were not as practical as us and could not adapt to new climate conditions and lifestyles. According to the remains found, it is understood that they lived as nomads and were inefficient. For example, the hearths they used to cook meat were generally used only once and then abandoned with garbage and leftovers. We even know that they had to resort to cannibalism from time to time from the remains in their teeth. It is believed that the decrease in fertility rate also had an effect. It is estimated that Neanderthals could not reproduce as efficiently as us. The human species that cared for their sick for years, fell in love, mourned, used tools, and maybe even made the first flute and music in history were not as practical as us. While modern humans, Homo sapiens, were catching prey by throwing spears during the same period, Neanderthals' thick and short arms did not allow them to do so. They had to store their spears in their nets. Therefore, they had to get very close to their big prey, and almost all Neanderthal bones found have severe injuries, fractures, and fatal damage. Another claim is that they were killed by modern humans. Of course, there would be occasional conflicts, but we cannot say that there are too many findings about it. We should not forget that very few people lived in a very large world at that time. Another claim is that Neanderthals hold different mysteries. According to this claim, Neanderthals did not actually go extinct. Even if there are very few of them, they continue to live on Earth, far away from humans. Could this really be true? Could the last representatives of this human species, which we thought had disappeared from existence 30,000 years ago, be trying to survive by escaping from us? Recently, in some remote areas of Mongolia, far from civilization, many hunters claim to have encountered an interesting species. The descriptions coincidentally looked very similar to Neanderthal humans, large-bodied, muscular, wide-faced, big-nosed, and fast. Moreover, these regions of Mongolia were a geography suitable for Neanderthals that evolved for cold climates. However, when some researchers from Europe examined the described areas, they could not find any trace, and this claim was dismissed. But this does not mean that the English hunters were lying. One of the most famous Neanderthal stories dates back to the 1800s and involves a woman named Zana who lived in the Caucasus. Zana was a very large, hairy woman living in the mountains, less intelligent than us. Hunters captured her and kept her in a cage. Even villagers who had sexual relations with her had children. Many black and white photographs of these children have survived to this day, and although their appearance is very similar to Neanderthals, DNA tests on their bones showed that they were Homo sapiens, modern humans, who appeared this way due to a disease. Other than these, claims of encounters with Bigfoot that have been made all over the world actually excite researchers with the hope of finding Neanderthals. So far, no such findings have been made. However, if our closest evolutionary cousins had managed to reach those who encountered them until now, how would that be? I await your comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.